Hello, Ben here from Supercoach Insider. Thank you very much. This is a little chat that I caught up with Swizz on. So it's part 2, talking about the mid prices and what to do. So particularly Rowell, Bowey, Xerri. What are we going to do? Those that we would actually look to move them up to or down, and basically the strategy that comes within that. Before we move on, SC Insider 100, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, please do like, subscribe, hit that follow button, hit that notification little ding ding. Let us know. Swizz, Chris, myself release our own individual team content each week, as well as our podcast that is now obviously a VOD. Loving the YouTube comments and the feedback. Let us know how you feel about it. Let us know what changes you're making this week. Let us know if you're holding on to Cripsy. That'll come out with Chris and myself talking about Crips coming up very soon. And basically, it's been confirmed. It's a 1 weeker, possibly a little bit more if you can trust them or not. So please do like, subscribe. And this is the chat that I had with Swizz, part 2. Talking about these mid prices to finish now, Swizz, we got Rowell's a hot topic, and I'm going to call him a mid pricer because that's what he was. Some people after round 1 were like, "Oh, the premium." So everyone's now like, "Oh, you have to get off Rowell. You have to get off Rowell." And Bowey as well, and Xerri we're going to probably talk about because they're the main ones that people are sort of looking to move on. Now, Rowell is the first one, and I don't know why people are losing their shit. He's tagging. I'm like, well, he matches up on a good midfielder in the contest, right? But I don't see him tagging per se. It's not like he's running around trying to absolutely negate what they're doing, and he's still able to get his own ball. So it's one of those ones where I still see him leading up and trying to get into space to get a mark. Now this week with his shit score, right? It's sorry, I'm just trying to fix a couple of things here. This week with a bad score, I think it was in the first quarter or something like that, where he literally got kneed into the back by McKay, ran in full forward, full stretch, knee right into the back. Absolutely floored him. The commentators couldn't believe that he didn't even go off the ground. They're like, what the hell? Like, Rouse just stood there, copped this, played on, and it looked like he was laboring for the game. He still tried hard, but he was laboring. So it's one of those ones for me where he probably could have gone off injured, got floored, still came back and scored okay. It wasn't great. But where do you stand on the whole Rouse show?
You might want to have a look at your message there, Benny, that I just sent you. But yeah, just in case it is the case. Rowley, mate. It's a really interesting one. I think he's more just like Jack Steele, and he just tackles so much. But and then he still gets his own ball. So it's not like Steele comes out and gets his 10 tackles each week. Rowell gets his 10 tackles, does the same thing. So just because he tackles a lot doesn't mean he's actually tagging. The problem is, I don't think he's either not finding the ball as much as we'd like. The issue is he's given because he's just even as a I was going to say a child, but as a it's still like what's he 19, 20, something like that, tackling grown men. He goes in there like an absolute bull and just gives away. I wouldn't even say sloppy free kicks. He's just nearly too rough with them. So unfortunately, he's giving away those, which is really hurting his score. And where he probably could be scoring sort of 70, 80, 90 as a base, but unfortunately, it's not the case at all. So, it's one of those things. I've got no issue if people want to jump off him. If you are going another, like if you can go to Steele or you can go to Bont or someone like that, then I can understand it. And especially if everyone owning him, and if it's one of those sort of 50-50 things. Um,
Yeah, we'll check that out soon.
One of those 50-50s. If Rowell doesn't score well and you jump off and you go to Steele or Bont and they go, on a massive run, which we expect them to do, then you're ahead of the game. If Rowell bounces back and with his soft draw and starts scoring hundreds again, and then those people are going to stay with you but creep up on that cash. So, it's a real flip of the coin moment. I don't mind either play, and I'm even tempted to be aggressive. And if that means me getting in Steele for him, I'm happy to do that.
I still think there's another 100,000 to be made there. Again, when you talk about that draw, like their start of the year was the hardest part. He still has the ceiling as well. And when you kind of look at Gold Coast and their games coming up as well, particularly around that even that bye period, They've got some easier games coming up. So Pies, when you look at the midfielders that they're up against coming as well, Steele is the only big one for the Saints. Lions have got a couple of big midfielders. The Collingwood don't really. Sydney have got those young kind of guys in there, except for Mills, who's probably the only actual bigger body guy. Fremantle won't have five back yet, so it won't be too bad for them there. Doggies will be hard. Hawks have got a lot of the young guys. Then North and Adelaide. So Hawks, North, Adelaide, those three games together, I honestly think Rowell's going to absolutely fucking towel up, and he has a big ceiling. He's still averaging 100. I think those kind of guys, you might as well just leave them be, right? He'll still chip away, get the 100 to 110 average, I think, from here until that sort of buy round. And then as my last option, I'd probably look at trying to move him on. I just think it's so early for a guy with that potential. And he's so highly owned as well. And you're going to hate it. If you jump off and he starts banging out some big scores, you're going to hate being the guy that jumps off.
That's why I think if you're going to jump off, you have to jump off. It can only be Steele or Bond.
And only if you've started him. If you've just brought him
Yeah,
in 2 weeks ago, no fucking chance.
yeah, no way at all. So if you have and you started him and you're doing that, well, you're probably still going to outscore what Rao's going to put up unless he goes on that massive heater like he did against West Coast. So that is the danger. If he comes out and scores a 150, then yeah, you can sort of miss out on some of that cash. But if he doesn't and he was only to go sort of 70, 80, and you've brought in still a one for, and yes, they're more expensive, but you've got that cash sitting there, like you, Benny, got that cash sitting there doing nothing. And if you can turn that onto points on field and another captain option, well, it's not a terrible play.
Yeah, see, I'd rather get rid of Bowey, 370,000, than Rowell at this point in time. So, it's one of those ones where, who's going to score you more points on field? And that's probably a good segue into our next section is with Bowey. Obviously had a real shit score, 47. I touched on this on my little Sunday update on YouTube. So if you're not sure, go find that. And basically, Port were just playing so bad, chipping it backwards. And when they did go forward, it was like May was just doing whatever he wanted, playing loose intercept, and would just clunk it. So basically, and then even then, it was starved of opportunities. His Bowie's role looked good. He was a handball behind the contest, or was trying to hit that inside 45 kick to be an option. But because Port were just literally in smother mode, trying to stop Melbourne doing anything, basically they covered any kind of corridor kick. So they couldn't really switch or hit the 45 to open up the field. So Melbourne were like, okay, well, you want to play this game? Well, we'll just wear you down. So it wasn't conducive to a rebounding defender. His role looked good. He did look good. Got burnt about 6 times by teammates, and I think two they kicked over their shoulder, one nearly out in the full, and he just got burned. So that could have easily been, just by them using him, could have been an 80 flat anyway. And basically, if you get a free flowing game open, like this week could be, GWS leaked 100 points to three defenders, and Luke Ryan wasn't even one of them. And that's why people are concerned with Luke Ryan. So, you look at a defender like this up against GWS, I think Bowey is actually in the fold to go 80 to 100 this week, which is why I'm considering holding him. But again, if you've got the cash, I can understand either A, you have the cash and you want to upgrade, right? The only one at the moment is probably Doherty. That's not falling in price. Or you're going to, though, take that money and go down and go and get a Driscoll and free up 200,000. So that way you can then move Cripps. I always get those confused. Move Cripps on if you need to. So
Yeah.
if I know you don't own Bowie, but what
No,
were your
I get
thoughts
where you're coming
quickly?
from, mate. Oh, I'll answer this with the one that was the one I traded in the week before, which was Rochelle. I traded him in, and a lot of people then traded him out because they're like, "Oh shit, that's his scoring done." And what happens? He bounces back with 106, and that goes with Rowell. That goes with Berry. A lot of people jumped off Berry last week when he scored 96. So a lot of people see that one bad score, think, "Oh my god, his break even's got a little bit up there." But that's the thing with these mid prices, and even some rookies, like expensive rookies, they can have go up and down and come out and score. Bowie could very easily come out and score 100 this week, and your cash gen has started again. Now, the problem is, if he doesn't, some people will be like, oh my God, it's I'm losing out because I could have brought in a Doherty or something like that. Well, if you've got the money, yes, that makes a lot of sense. But their break evens are still so low. Like Berry's last week was, even like Xerri at the moment, Rochelle, all those guys. Where if they have one good week as a bounce back, their cash changer starts again, and then that little score will come out. So, yeah, I think if you have the cash and you really needed another defender, no problems if you can do that. But then I wouldn't be going off and side swapping, and that's probably the bigger issue. Some people then go and side swap, like for example, they might have gone Berry to, um, let's just hypothetically say it was Rowell, or might have been they might have had the 100k and went to Green last week, and in the end they end up scoring the same amount. I know a few people went Berry to Cripps, and then that's actually it worked out as minus 60, and actually lost cash from that. So yeah, unless you're going up, and I always say if you've got the money, you can go to a premium. So in this case, for the back line, it's Doherty, or if you've got the dual position and you can bring in Steele, Bond, if you don't have McRae or Neil, for example, then there's minimal risk because everyone's got those other players or wants those other players or will have them by the end of the year. So you're bringing in a bona fide premium. But if you're only going to do, say, Bowey down to Nod, or if you're going to do Bowey across to, say, a Daniel Rioli, for example, and that you're just side swapping, and there's no guarantee Bowey's not going to score more than the player you're bringing in. So yeah, I
Yeah,
prefer to hold those guys until their break even becomes, well, shit, we have to
a
trade
real
these
issue.
blokes.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
even then, my consideration is if you are looking to get a premium anyway, right? The stop loss on Bowie would be less than what Aaron Hall's going to lose this week. Now, I know you talk about points on field. I was obviously key. If you have the cash, you probably should try and take the points on field, which is the advice I'm trying to give myself. The fact that I have the cash and I should probably put that to good use, which will touch on our next point that you brought up, Swizz. Um, yeah, so it's one of those funny ones where the loss on him will be less than what Aaron Hall and stuff will
mm,
lose. The one thing that you spoke about before this podcast, Swizz, is that if you've already got 4 defenders, right, you're about to have bloody Dacos come
Dacos.
as a defender rookie. Now, that defender rookie can play at D6 until the buys. He's such a good rookie that you don't actually need him. Now, that means that if you've already got 4 defenders and you go Bowie to a Doherty, you cannot, in good fortune, unless you start putting Dacos back into that midfield, you can't pick another premium in defense until after the buys.
Yeah.
And that becomes a big issue because if Lloyd bottoms out at 500, you're like, fuck yeah, I want Lloyd. And you're like, oh shit, I've already got all these other rookies now in defense. What am I going to do? You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It's one of
yeah,
those
that was
situations.
that, and that came from Michikos's question for me, because he was asking me about bringing in Doherty, and I said, well, I can't because I've got 4 defenders. That gives me 5. Lloyd Stewart, I do not have. And then what happens if Pendles, for example, picks up dual position? So I can't get them all in. For him, in that case, I know he's only got 3 premium defenders, so it makes sense because I think you need 4 premium defenders. So if you've got Bowie sitting there as your D5, then you don't need to go and do Doherty. If Bowie's your D3, for example, D4, it's a different story because everyone else has full premium defenders. And most people have Short in, who's just flying at the moment. They've got one of Lloyd or Hall or Stewart. And that's one that's going to probably be at the end of the year in that top sort of 6 conversation. And that a lot of people has Crisp, who, what did he go, 120, 130 or something ridiculous on the weekend, and then there's usually another one. Somebody's got Sicily or Whitfield or one of those guys. But yeah, so now you're playing at a disadvantage because everyone's got full premium defenders, so you need that. But if you've got bringing in a 5th is actually just going to hamstring you to somebody like, yeah, if Lloyd or Hall or somebody gets really cheap, or if we pick up some more dual position players, well, it's really gonna bug you. So I don't mind if you went Bowie to Steele again because that's the one that everyone's sort of talking about, or as I said, one of those defenders, because let's just say you've got a loophole that you can do it and you've already got 4 premium defenders, yeah, not a problem. But if you've got Bowie there at D5, yeah, you probably just hold him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I hope that answers your question, Jaden, as well as Jules on the Pendles DPP. Someone that we are looking at Pendles DPP 100%, especially if there is an injury. So that's one to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks. Also, the last one to touch on is Xerri. Now, Xerri, fuck, it couldn't have been worse timing for Xerri. Now, he wasn't exactly setting the world alight. Kicked a goal, had another like shot or two and missed. And the big part is that Laddams went down with a concussion protocol test and bloody Xerri missed a whole quarter. Bang, like split open his eye, whatever, was off the field for basically a whole quarter. That whole quarter was Grundy against who was it even? It was bloody the tall forward or whatever from Sydney. Anyway, so basically Grundy's just tapping it left, right, and center, hitting it down the throat of his teammates. Grundy's going absolutely huge. Cherry's sitting on the bench for a whole quarter. And then by the time I'm sitting there going, yes, Cherry's back out there. Let's go, Cherry, make some points. Laddams goes back out there as well. I was like, motherfucker. Missed like literally a perfect window to dominate. and just couldn't do it. So it's one of those ones. If you see Cherry's bad score, he didn't play that badly. He was probably on track for, maybe not a great score, but at least a 70 sort of to an 80 mark. If Laddams was off, he would have easily gone over 80. So it's just one of those ones you have to kind of take the hit and hope that he does better. Kind of hurts that Goldie was so good in the ruck. So it's one that I am keen to actually watch them a little bit more to see how they're going to use that this week and see if that's going to change. Final thoughts, Swizz?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I go and see North the following week down in Hobart for the game. So a lot of the games, from a emotional and personal point of view, I hate trading up players that I'm going to go watch, because I know I'm going to go that game and just get frustrated because they're going to absolutely burn me. I think Cherry's break even still manageable enough that we can at least hold him for one more week, and have a look at him. But if he was to unfortunately have another game, so it's 58 against the Dogs now, so that still is a ruckman. If he plays, that sort of 50-60% time that he's been doing, he should still get around that mark. At worst, what's his worst going to be for, like 50, 55, and that and it's against English, like, as well as English has been doing around the ground and scoring fantastic. He's not a great tap ruckman, so you expect Cherry to get a few hit out to advantage there. Should get at least a decent enough score, at least match that break even. Hopefully, in a perfect world, have a decent game and get a sort of 80 and keep that cash gen going for at least another week or two. But if he doesn't, he could be the one under discussion next week and could be a really easy trade out for Bruce for those who don't have him. So that's what I would nearly prefer. Keep him for one more week. If you've got Hayes or Dixon in at R3 or R2, or depending on what you're going to do there, hold Cherry. One of them goes into your forward line and Bruce comes in and you make some money from Cherry to Bruce as it is.
Sounds good. That wraps us up for rookies and mid prices. We'll catch you soon, and we'll get on to obviously all the premium news, who to watch out for, the Cripps dilemma, what to do if he doesn't get up, etc., etc. Swizz, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you soon. If you
See you,
haven't already,
Ben.
go check out Swizz's team reveal as well on the YouTube, his progress for this week, and mine as well. Obviously, each week we do our own little recordings as to what we're thinking, our captains, etc. We don't even talk to each other about before we do it, so it's not coerced. It's literally our own thoughts, our own team, and you get a little bit of extra insight there on the YouTube as a bonus. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.
Bye.